The days on Karen passed slowly, but with a strange new light. Toma and Lyra worked side by side on the energy stabilizer. The cold, quiet mountains around them seemed less harsh when they were together. The sun's soft glow touched the peaks and spread warmth to their small camp. Lyra was curious, always asking questions. She wanted to know about humans, how they laughed, how they cared, how they loved. Toma answered with simple stories, careful not to use words she would not understand. Sometimes he told her about his home on Earth, a blue planet full of oceans and forests. Lyra listened closely, her eyes wide with wonder. One evening, while they rested near a small fire, Lyra looked up at the stars. They were different from the stars on her world, but they felt just as important. "Why do humans smile so much?" she asked softly. Toma smiled back. "Because we find joy in small things. A smile is like a light that helps us feel close to others." Lyra was silent for a moment. Then she said, "On Karen, we do not smile much. We believe showing feelings is weak. It can bring danger." Toma nodded. "I have heard that sometimes. But I think feelings make us stronger. They help us fight for what we care about." Lyra looked at him, a mixture of hope and fear in her eyes. "I wish I could be like that. But if the elders find out I act differently, they will punish me." Toma reached out and took her hand gently. "You are not alone. I will help you." Lyra squeezed his hand and gave a small, shy smile. It was the first time Toma saw her smile fully. The next day, they worked hard on the stabilizer. The machine had many parts, some old and worn. Toma showed Lyra how to repair a cracked circuit and how to check the energy flow. As they worked, Lyra told Toma about her childhood. "I was different even then," she said. "When others cried, I held my tears. But once I could not. I was called weak." Toma listened carefully. "It is not weak to feel. It is human." Lyra laughed softly. "You say it like a song," Toma grinned. "Maybe it is." That evening, Lyra taught Toma the Karen way of greeting, bowing low and speaking softly. Toma tried to copy, but his tall frame made it awkward. Lyra giggled quietly. "You are funny." They both laughed, a sound new to the cold mountains. But not all was easy. Some Karen villagers watched them with suspicion. Lyra's change was clear, and whispers began. At a gathering in the village square, elders spoke about the need for order and strength. Showing feelings was seen as a threat to their way of life. Toma heard the murmurs and felt the cold stare of the villagers. He knew that the moment was coming when they would be forced to choose. Late one night, Lyra came to Toma's small room. Her eyes were bright but worried. "I fear I will lose my place if I continue," she said. "My world does not accept me." Toma held her hand. "Then let us change the world together." Lyra nodded. "I want to learn how to live with feelings, but I am afraid." Toma smiled. "Fear is natural, but courage is stronger." In the days that followed, they shared stories and laughter. Lyra tried to smile more and to speak openly. She asked Toma about kindness and friendship. Toma told her about a human tradition called a hug, a way to show care without words. Lyra tried it carefully, wrapping her arms around him. It felt strange but warm. The villagers began to notice the change. Some frowned, others whispered. The elders grew more watchful. One day, as they repaired the stabilizer, Lyra stopped suddenly. Her hands trembled. "I want to ask you something," she said quietly. "What is it?" Toma replied. "Do humans ever give up when others say they cannot belong?" Toma looked at her seriously. "No. We fight for the people we love, even when it is hard." Lyra smiled sadly. "Then I must be brave." Toma nodded. "You are brave already." Together they finished the repairs. The machine hummed with new energy, bright and steady. That night, under the cold stars, Lyra whispered, "I cannot survive without you, human." Toma looked at her, his heart full. "And I choose to stand with you no matter what comes." But the quiet mountain night held danger. The elders were watching. The moment of truth was near. The mountain air was cold and sharp, but Toma and Lyra did not feel it as much as the weight of the days to come. After the repair of the energy stabilizer, something in the village had changed. The whispers grew louder. Eyes followed them when they walked through the narrow paths between the stone houses. Not everyone was pleased with Lyra's growing friendship with the human. One afternoon, while working in the lab, Lyra suddenly grew quiet. Her hands, usually steady and precise, trembled as she touched a delicate instrument. Toma looked at her, worry in his eyes. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Lyra took a deep breath and nodded, but her voice was low. The elders have called me. They want to speak. Toma's heart sank. He had expected this moment but hoped it would not come so soon. That is not good, he said. Do you want me to come with you? Lyra shook her head. No, this is something I must face alone, but I am afraid. Toma reached out and took her hand gently. You are not alone, Lyra. I am with you. She gave a small smile, grateful but frightened. Later that day, Lyra left for the council hall, a tall building carved from smooth stone. The path was quiet, but the village seemed to hold its breath. People watched her pass with mixed feelings, some with anger, others with pity. Inside the hall, the elders sat in a circle, their faces calm but stern. Their robes were dark and their eyes cold. Lyra stood before them, small and trembling. Lyra, the oldest elder, began, his voice deep and slow. You have broken the customs of Karen. You have allowed yourself to feel emotions that weaken your spirit. You have acted in ways that threaten our traditions. Lyra's voice was soft but firm. I have not broken anything. I have learned to live with kindness and strength together. The elders exchanged glances. You risk the safety of our people, another elder said. Your attachment to the human Toma is dangerous. Lyra swallowed hard. Toma has shown me a new way to live. Not weakness, but courage. The oldest elder raised a hand. Your feelings bring chaos. We offer you a choice. Sever your bond with the human or accept exile to the remote outpost beyond the ice fields. Lyra's heart ached. She had feared this moment. She looked at the elders and then thought of Toma's kind face, his steady hands and warm smile. I choose to keep my bond, she said quietly. The elders were silent for a moment. Then the oldest spoke again. Very well. You will be sent to the outpost. Your time here is over. Lyra's knees felt weak. She bowed her head in respect but did not break. When she left the hall, her mind raced. How could she leave the village? How could she survive alone in the ice fields? That night, Toma waited for her return. When Lyra finally came, her eyes were red and her step slow. Tell me what happened, Toma said gently. Lyra shook her head. I cannot. It is too difficult. Toma took her hands. We will find a way. But the days that followed were hard. The elders watched her closely and her duties were taken away. She was no longer welcomed in meetings or meals. The villagers avoided her, afraid of the punishment that might come. Toma felt helpless. He wanted to protect Lyra but knew he was an outsider in this strict world. One evening, as the sun set behind the mountains, Lyra sat by the fire, staring into the flames. Toma joined her and asked, What do you want now? Lyra looked at him with tears in her eyes. I want to stay here with you, but they will not allow it. Toma squeezed her hand. Then we must find another way. The next morning, Toma met with Roan, the young guard who had once helped him. Roan's face was serious but kind. I know where they keep Lyra, Roan said quietly. She is being moved soon. If you want to see her, you must hurry. Toma felt a surge of hope and fear. Can you help me? Roan nodded. I will try, but be careful. The elders do not forgive. That night, under a dark sky, Toma slipped through the village, guided by Roan's whispered directions. The cold bit at his skin, but he pressed forward. He found the outpost, a small dome surrounded by snow and ice, guarded by stern faces. Inside, Lyra worked silently, her eyes meeting his when he appeared. Relief and sadness mixed in her gaze. You shouldn't have come, she whispered. They will punish you. Toma shook his head. I will stay. We will face this together. And so in the frozen silence, their small rebellion began. The cold wind swept across the ice fields surrounding the small outpost where Lyra was held. Inside, the air was thin and chilly, but the weight of silence and fear was heavier. The walls of the dome were cold and plain, filled only with the tools and machines necessary for work. Lyra sat quietly, her mind restless. She thought often of the village she had left behind, the narrow streets, the mountain peaks, and the people who watched her with suspicion. But most of all, she thought of Toma, his kindness, his gentle words, and his promise to stand with her no matter what. That promise was the light that kept her going. One morning, as the sun barely rose above the horizon, the dome's door opened. Toma stepped inside, careful not to slip on the icy floor. Lyra's face lit up when she saw him. They won't let me go, she said softly. They say I must stay here until the elders decide my fate. Toma nodded. I will not leave you alone. They sat close, sharing stories to keep hope alive. Toma spoke of Earth, of places where people fought not with weapons but with their hearts. Lyra listened, absorbing each word like a seed ready to grow. But outside the dome, the world was not quiet. The elders had sent a message to the human outpost, ordering Toma to leave Karen immediately. They called his presence dangerous and a threat to their customs. Toma refused to leave. He went to the human outpost and spoke with his commanders. I will stay, he said firmly. Lyra needs me. The commanders were hesitant but could not order him away. They knew Toma was risking everything, but they respected his choice. Back at the outpost, Toma and Lyra made plans. They would finish their work on the energy stabilizer and send a message for help if needed. They knew that standing against the elders would not be easy, but they had no choice. One evening, while repairing a broken panel, Lyra spoke softly. What if I lose everything? My home, my place, even my family? Toma looked at her with steady eyes. Then we build something new. Lyra smiled faintly. You make it sound simple. It is not, Toma said. But love makes us strong. Word of their quiet resistance spread slowly. Some villagers began to question the strict rules they had always followed. Roan, the young guard, shared stories of the humans' kindness and Lyra's courage. His voice was soft but growing stronger. One day, Toma was approached by a group of villagers. Their faces were uncertain but curious. Why do you stay? One asked. Why risk so much? Toma smiled gently. Because some things are worth fighting for. Because Lyra is worth it. The villagers looked at each other, some nodding quietly, but the elders were watching. Their patience was running thin. Lyra was summoned again, this time to face a formal trial. The charges were clear: disobedience, breaking customs, and dangerous attachment. Toma wanted to stand beside her but was told to stay away. In the cold court, Lyra spoke bravely. I do not deny my feelings. I do not see them as weakness. I see them as part of who I am. The elders listened but remained unmoved. Outside, the villagers gathered, whispering and watching. Toma stood before the court, his voice clear and strong. If loving another is a crime, then I am guilty too. His words echoed in the silent hall. The trial ended without decision. The elders declared they would consider their verdict. As Toma left, Lyra whispered, Thank you for standing with me. Toma smiled. I will never stop. The path ahead was uncertain, but together they were ready to face whatever came next. The cold winds howled outside the village as a storm began to gather, both in the sky and in the hearts of the people. Toma and Lyra knew the quiet days were ending. The elders had not forgotten their defiance. Their trial had stirred a mix of fear and hope among the villagers. Some whispered secretly in the shadows, while others looked at Toma and Lyra with cold eyes. In the small outpost, where they continued their work on the energy stabilizer, tension filled the air. Every sound outside the wall seemed louder, every shadow darker. But inside, Toma and Lyra remained determined. One morning, as the first light touched the icy fields, Roan visited them with urgent news. The elders are calling for a meeting, he said. They want to decide your fate soon. Lyra's hands trembled. What will they do? Roan shrugged. I don't know, but I fear it will not be good. Toma placed a steady hand on her shoulder. We will face it together. The news spread quickly. Villagers gathered in small groups, debating quietly. Some spoke of change and understanding. Others warned of danger and tradition. Toma reached out to those who would listen. He spoke of kindness and courage. He told stories of a world where differences were not feared but celebrated. Slowly, some began to see a new path. Others grew more angry. The day of the meeting arrived. The council hall was filled with villagers, the elders seated at the front. Toma and Lyra entered together, their hands clasped tightly. The oldest elder spoke first. You have challenged our ways. Your feelings threaten the order we have built. We must protect Karen. Lyra stood tall. Our feelings make us who we are. They do not weaken us. They give us strength, the crowd murmured. Some nodded, others scowled. The elders proposed a harsh punishment. Lyra would be banished forever, and Toma ordered to leave Karen. But before the final word was spoken, a voice rose from the crowd. It was Roan. Enough, he said firmly. We have lived by fear for too long. Maybe it is time to change. His words inspired others. Slowly, more voices joined, speaking of hope and new beginnings. The elders looked around, surprised and uncertain. Toma spoke next. I came to Karen to help. Not to fight, but love is not a weakness. It is the greatest strength. The villagers listened, some with tears in their eyes. The elders whispered among themselves. After a long silence, the oldest elder spoke again. We will delay the punishment. There will be a time to decide, but for now, peace must remain. Relief washed over Lyra and Toma. But they knew the struggle was not over. As the crowd dispersed, a few angry voices remained. Not all were ready for change. That night, under a sky full of stars, Toma and Lyra sat by the fire. The wind was calm, but their hearts beat with the storm of the day. Do you think they will ever accept us? Lyra asked. Toma looked at her with warmth. I believe they can. It will take time. Lyra smiled softly. Then we will wait and keep trying. The days that followed were filled with small victories. Some villagers began to greet Lyra with nods and smiles. Children played near their camp, curious and unafraid. Toma and Lyra worked harder than ever, fixing the energy stabilizer and teaching others about its purpose. The mountain began to feel less cold, the future less uncertain, but the storm was still out there, waiting, watching. The mountain days grew colder as the winter approached. Toma and Lyra worked together to repair the energy stabilizer. The machine was important for the village's survival during the harsh months ahead. Without it, the lights would fail, and the warmth would disappear. Every day they labored side by side, their bond growing stronger. The villagers watched with mixed feelings. Some admired their courage, while others feared what change might bring. Whispers still followed them, but fewer now were harsh or angry. One afternoon, as Toma adjusted a panel, Roan approached with a serious look. There is a problem, he said quietly. A group of elders wants to challenge your right to stay here. They say you bring danger, Toma frowned. What kind of challenge? Roan hesitated. They want a test, a trial of strength and skill. They say if you fail, you must leave Karen forever. Lyra's eyes widened. A trial? But I am not sure I can win. Toma smiled gently. We will face it together. The challenge was set for the next day. It was to take place in the old arena, a place where Karen's greatest warriors had fought for generations. The crowd gathered, the air tense and cold. The elders chose a champion, a strong and skilled warrior named Kale. His face was stern, his eyes sharp. Toma stepped forward, calm but determined. The rules were simple. Each would demonstrate their strength, skill, and courage. Kale started with powerful moves, showing his speed and control. The crowd cheered loudly. Toma watched carefully. He knew he was not a warrior like Kale, but he had something else, a different kind of strength. When it was Toma's turn, he moved with quiet confidence. He showed how he could fix and improve machines, solve problems quickly, and think clearly under pressure. The crowd was surprised. They saw that strength was not only about fighting, but about wisdom and courage in other ways. Lyra watched with pride. Toma's courage was not just for himself, but for all of them. After the challenge, the elders whispered among themselves. Some were impressed, others unsure. Kale approached Toma. You fight with a different power. I respect that, Toma nodded. Thank you. We all have our ways to protect what we care about. The elders decided to delay their judgment again. They said they would watch and wait to see what happened next. That evening, Toma and Lyra returned to their work. The energy stabilizer hummed steadily, brighter than before. But the challenge had brought new tension. Some villagers were inspired, while others grew more wary. Roan came to Toma. You have changed some minds, but there are those who will never accept this. Toma sighed. Then we must keep trying. Lyra looked at the mountains. It is a long path, but we are not alone. Together, they prepared for the future, ready to face whatever challenges might come. Winter deepened over the mountain village. Snow covered the rocky paths and cold winds swept through the narrow streets. Inside the outpost, Toma and Lyra continued their work on the energy stabilizer. But the pressure from the village was growing stronger. The elders had not forgotten their defiance. While some villagers were beginning to accept change, others were still afraid and angry. The tension in the air was thick, like the heavy clouds that hid the sun. One morning, as Toma and Lyra prepared to test the stabilizer, a messenger arrived. The young man carried a sealed scroll with the mark of the elders. Lyra broke the seal and read the message aloud. We offer a final choice. Either you leave Karen within 3 days or face the full judgment of the council. Toma's face grew serious. We cannot leave. Not now. Lyra nodded. We have come too far. That evening they sat by the fire speaking quietly. There must be another way, Lyra said. We cannot simply run away. Toma looked at the flames. Then we must stand and face whatever comes. The next day Roan came to warn them. Some villagers plan to confront you. They are angry and scared, Toma sighed. We must be ready to listen and to speak with kindness. When the villagers arrived, they were a large group, their faces hard but curious. The leader, a woman named Mira, stepped forward. We do not want to fight, Mira said, but many fear what you bring. The elders say you are dangerous. Toma spoke calmly. We only want peace and understanding. We want to help Karen grow stronger, Lyra added. We are not enemies. We share this home. For hours they talked. Some villagers softened, others stayed quiet. Slowly, walls began to fall. But not all were convinced. That night, as the village slept, a small fire was set near the outpost. The flames were quickly put out, but the message was clear. Lyra held Toma's hand. They fear what they do not understand. Toma nodded. Then we must show them the truth. The next morning, Toma and Lyra invited the villagers to see the energy stabilizer working. The machine glowed warmly, spreading light and heat throughout the outpost. One by one, the villagers stepped inside and felt the warmth. They saw the machines working together and heard Toma explain how it could help them all survive winter. Mira smiled softly. Maybe there is hope. The elders watched from afar, their faces unreadable. That night, Lyra and Toma made their choice. They would stay and continue to build bridges between the old ways and the new. It would not be easy, but they believed in the strength of their bond and the power of hope. As the stars shone above, they knew their journey was far from over. But they were ready to face the future together. The long winter was beginning to fade. The days grew slowly warmer, and the snow started to melt, revealing the rocky ground beneath. The village of Karen looked different in the soft light of early spring. The heavy clouds that had hung low were moving away, allowing the sun to touch the mountain peaks. Inside the outpost, the energy stabilizer hummed steadily. Its warm light filled the rooms, chasing away the cold that had once threatened the village's survival. Toma and Lyra worked side by side, their faces glowing with quiet hope. The past months had been difficult. The fight for acceptance had tested their spirits, but they had not given up. Their love had become a symbol, a sign that change was possible even in the oldest traditions. Early one morning, a group of villagers gathered outside the outpost. They carried baskets of food and simple gifts. Among them was Mira, the woman who had once led the group against Toma and Lyra. Mira stepped forward and smiled. We want to help. The village needs new ways to survive and grow. You have shown us that. Lyra's eyes shone with gratitude. Thank you. We can learn together, Toma nodded. Together we are stronger. The elders came as well. They did not speak much, but their faces were less stern. The oldest elder approached slowly. We have watched your courage, he said quietly. You have changed Karen. Lyra bowed her head respectfully. Thank you for giving us a chance. The elder smiled faintly. There is still much to do, but the future is brighter. With the village united, work began on new projects. The energy stabilizer was expanded. New machines were built to help with farming and gathering. Children played in the streets without fear, their laughter filling the air. One afternoon, Toma and Lyra climbed the mountain together. From the peak, they could see the whole village spread below, alive with color and life. Lyra turned to Toma. We have come far, but this is only the beginning. Toma smiled. As long as we face it together, there is no limit to what we can do. The sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in gold and pink. In that moment, the world felt full of promise. The story of the human and the alien who had stood against the old ways became a legend. A story told around fires and in quiet moments, reminding everyone that love and courage could change even the hardest hearts. As the stars appeared one by one, Toma and Lyra knew their journey was far from over. But the new dawn was theirs to face, side by side as partners, friends, and family. The mountain wind whispered softly, carrying a message of hope for all who would listen. The stars twinkled softly against the endless darkness of space as Aaliyah sat quietly in the control room of the station. The hum of machinery and distant chatter filled the background, a comforting reminder of the thriving community she helped build. Though she had faced many trials and triumphed, Aaliyah knew that peace was never permanent in the vastness of the galaxy. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden arrival of an urgent message on the station's communication console. The message was encrypted and marked as high priority. Tomil, who was working nearby, came over at once. Together, they unlocked the transmission. The image that appeared was grainy but unmistakable. It showed a starship, old and battered, drifting near the station's outer rim. The voice that followed was strained and cautious. "This is Captain Relin of the Varelian fleet. We have uncovered information about a hidden enemy from our past, a threat that could endanger all the Allied systems. We seek your help, Aaliyah." Aaliyah's heart skipped a beat. The hidden enemy mentioned was unknown to most outside secret circles, but she had heard whispers during her time on the station. The enemy was a shadowy group called the Karsi, known for sabotage and destruction, long thought defeated. She looked at Tomil, who nodded encouragingly. "We cannot ignore this. It might be more dangerous than anything we have faced." Aaliyah immediately convened a meeting with the station's council, which now included representatives from many species. The council debated the best course of action. "We must assist the Varelians," said Nira, her voice steady. "This enemy could threaten us all. But how do we fight a foe we know little about?" asked Mara, frowning. Aaliyah stood up, her determination clear. "By working together. Our strength is in our unity. We will prepare and face whatever comes." In the following days, the station became a hive of activity. Engineers worked to upgrade defense systems. Healers trained for possible casualties. Scouts prepared to gather information on the Karsi. Aaliyah focused on communication and coordination. She reached out to allies in nearby systems and shared what little intelligence they had. One night, while reviewing reports in her quarters, Aaliyah received a visitor, an unexpected one. It was Dran, the Varelian leader who had once doubted her. "I have come to offer my help," Dran said quietly. "The Karsi are our shared enemy. We need you, Aaliyah." Aaliyah smiled warmly. "I am glad you came. Together, we are stronger." Days later, a team led by Aaliyah, Tomil, Nira, and Dran boarded a fast ship to investigate the Karsi's last known location. The journey was tense but hopeful. When they arrived, they found signs of destruction. Ships burned, space debris scattered in eerie silence. Suddenly, their sensors detected movement, small stealth ships approaching rapidly. The Karsi had been waiting. Aaliyah ordered her crew into defensive positions. The battle that followed was intense and chaotic. But thanks to their preparation and unity, the team managed to fend off the attackers. After the fight, Aaliyah and her team discovered secret data files on one of the Karsi ships. The files revealed plans to disrupt communication networks across the Allied systems, a strategy that could isolate planets and cause widespread panic. Aaliyah's resolve hardened. They had to stop the Karsi before their plan succeeded. Returning to the station, Aaliyah organized a coalition of forces from different species. Training sessions began, focusing on teamwork and shared tactics. Aaliyah led with passion and courage, inspiring all who followed her. The station, once a place of refuge, was now a center of resistance. As preparations continued, Aaliyah found a quiet moment with Tomil under the stars. "We have come so far," she said softly. "But the road ahead will be hard." Tomil took her hand gently. "We face it together." Like always, the days passed quickly. Then came the final mission, to strike at the heart of the Karsi's operations. Aaliyah and her allies prepared to launch their attack, knowing that the future of many worlds depended on their courage. The station was silent before dawn. Aaliyah looked at the faces around her, brave, determined, and ready. This was no longer just about survival. It was about protecting hope, friendship, and the future. And Aaliyah was ready, because she was never alone. She was a warrior, not just of strength, but of heart, and with her friends and family beside her, she would face the shadows of the past and bring light to the galaxy once more. The stars shone brightly outside the station's large windows. Aaliyah sat quietly in her chair watching the vast space. The station was full of life now. People from many worlds worked, talked, and laughed together. It was a place of hope, built on trust and friendship. But Aaliyah knew the galaxy was never truly safe. Peace was fragile. Danger could come without warning. Suddenly, an urgent message appeared on the communication screen. Aaliyah and Tamil quickly went to see it. The message was marked important and encrypted, which meant it was secret and serious. Together, they opened the message. The image was blurry, but it showed a starship far from the station. The voice that followed was worried and tired. "This is Captain Rellan of the Varelian fleet. We found out about a hidden enemy from our past. This enemy is dangerous and may threaten many systems. We ask for your help, Aaliyah." Aaliyah's heart beat fast. She had heard stories about this enemy before. They were called the Karsi, a group known for attacking and destroying quietly. Many thought they were gone, but now it seemed they were back. Tamil put a hand on her shoulder. "We cannot ignore this. It might be worse than anything we faced before." Aaliyah nodded. "We must act fast." She called a meeting with the station's council. This group included leaders from many races who lived and worked on the station. The council talked long and carefully. "We must help the Varelians," said Nira. "If the Karsi return, no one will be safe." "But how do we fight an enemy we barely understand?" asked Mara, the healer. Aaliyah stood up, her voice strong. "We fight together. Our power is in our unity. We will prepare and face them as one." The station became busy with new energy. Engineers worked day and night to improve defenses. Healers practiced new skills. Scouts prepared for missions to gather information about the Karsi. Aaliyah focused on keeping everyone connected. She sent messages to allies nearby and shared what little they knew. One evening, there was a soft knock on her door. It was Dran, a Varelian leader who had once doubted her. "I want to help," he said quietly. "The Karsi are a threat to all." "We need you, Aaliyah." Aaliyah smiled warmly. "I'm glad you came. Together, we are stronger." A few days later, Aaliyah, Tamil, Nira, and Dran took a fast ship to the place where the Karsi were last seen. The trip was tense but full of hope. When they arrived, the scene was frightening. Burned ships and broken metal floated in space. Silence covered the area. Suddenly, their sensors picked up fast-moving small ships, Karsi scouts. Aaliyah quickly ordered her team into defense. The fight was sudden and fierce, but because they were ready and worked together, Aaliyah's team defeated the attackers. After the battle, they searched one of the Karsi ships. Inside, they found secret data files. The files showed a plan. The Karsi wanted to break communication networks between the Allied systems. If they succeeded, many worlds would be cut off and fall into chaos. Aaliyah's heart hardened with determination. They had to stop this. Back on the station, Aaliyah called a meeting with leaders from many races. They agreed to form a strong team to fight the Karsi. Training began every day. They practiced together, learning to trust and support one another. Aaliyah led by example. Her courage inspired everyone. The station had changed from a place of refuge to a strong center of resistance. One night, Aaliyah and Tamil stood outside under the stars. "We have come so far," she said softly. "But there is still much to do." Tamil smiled and held her hand. "We face it all together like always." Days later, the final plan was ready. Aaliyah and her team would strike the Karsi's main base. Before dawn, the station was quiet. Aaliyah looked around at her friends and allies. Their faces were calm but strong. This was more than a fight to survive. This was a fight to protect hope, friendship, and the future. And Aaliyah was ready, because she was never alone. She was a warrior, not only of strength but of heart. With her friends and family by her side, she would face the shadows of the past and bring light to the galaxy once more.